Hello everyone. This is Indian Contract Act video 10. So we'll continue from where we had left in the last class. This in this class majorly we will be discussing which topics. I'm just giving a brief gist as to what topics. In last classes we had covered till restraint of trade. We had covered about and explained you in a lot of detailed manner about restraint of trade, restraint of marriage. We had discussed. We had also discussed when the agreement without consideration under section 25 in a very detailed manner. You should I would suggest you to watch these all videos in sequence to have a better understanding. If you have any query, you can put it to me in the comment section. Let's start with our next section, which is section 28. We had dealt till section 27. In this video, what we are doing is about the legal proceedings. Legal proceedings where what we are doing, agreement. Whenever any sort of agreement is done, agreement in restraint of legal proceedings means there is any agreement which is between party, like A and B are making any agreement in which they are restraining the legal proceedings. But if you see this section 28 also, as I've discussed earlier as well, that there are certain exceptions means there are some कि कुछ exceptions उन्होंने डाल दी कि this is a general rule कि any agreement, whenever there is any agreement, when they are saying that legal proceedings are not legal proceedings cannot be barred, that you cannot approach the court, but इसके भी कुछ exceptions हैं. We'll deal with it in a very detailed manner. Firstly, every agreement that restrain absolutely a party from enforcing their right under a contract by using legal proceedings in the ordinary tribunal, or which limits the time within which they may be enforce such rights, is void to that extent. Here there are two words. There are important words are absolutely. Absolutely is an important word here. That अगर कोई agreement है, there is certain agreement between the parties जो absolutely in the sense that it is creating in its ambit absoluteness means completely कि you cannot approach the court. अगर मैं कोई clause डाल दूं in which it states कि you cannot approach the court forever for enforcement of the rights. One word is this, and which is limits the time. Another is अगर कोई proceedings है, there is an agreement between the parties, like there is a agreement in which there is a clause. A inserts a clause which states that B can enforce this contract in case of any breach. B can enforce this contract only after 20 years. This seems to be unreasonable, right? 20 years are unreasonable time that you can only enforce this contract. Why there is a need of this restraint? Why? But understanding this concept, why even there is a need to restrain the legal proceedings? It means if there is any breach in the sense, breach we'll discuss in the later videos. Ki there is one party who says that who do not fulfill their obligation, who is like they refuse to do what they had agreed in a kind of agreement. They had agreed something and later on they're not doing. They always make a clause, the clause about dispute resolution. What should be the nature of this dispute resolution? This dispute resolution clause cannot absolutely bar कि they cannot enter any clause जिसमें they are saying that you cannot approach the court forever, or they cannot limit the time that you can approach only after within 1 year only you have to get it claimed or like that. But there are certain exceptions also. It basically why we have this sort of provision of restrainment of legal proceedings under the Indian Contract Act, because the purpose behind this whole provision is to protect the rights to seek the legal remedies. Because why? Because we know one thing for sure, we know that agreement of any sort is a kind of private arrangement between the parties. Parties can whatever feel, whatever during their negotiation, whatever they feel right, they can add in a contract. But still, if you see, contracts ka basic funda is basic on the basis of which we have all the contracts is because of the trust or the faith part. But if one party is taking this kind of this kind of unfair treatment ki they cannot approach the court forever. Such kind of clauses should be restrained. Why? Because of public policy, welfare of the state. As I told you, like whatever sort this kind of provision which is restraining things absolutely, which is going against the principle of reasonability. Court always apply the principle of reasonability to see whether this clause is reasonable or not. So even if you, whenever you're drafting any contract, why you need to know about it, when you go in practice and you're drafting any sort of any contract where you're adding any clause, the clause about dispute resolution has to be very properly added. Firstly, this. Now, scope of section 28, absolute restraint. As I told you, a clause that completely bars a party from approaching court or limits the time to enforce the right shorter than the statutory limitation is void. One thing which is important is absolute restraint. As I told you earlier as well, कि कोई ऐसा clause which is absolutely restraining. If there is some kind of partial restraint, if there is any partial restraint, there is also this I told you about absolute. There are partial restraint. If there is partial restraint in any kind of clause, then it is a valid agreement of dispute resolution clause. Why I'm saying that? Agreement choosing one of the several competent code which more than one have jurisdiction are valid. Like if in the dispute resolution this states that the parties A and B has any sort of have any sort of dispute, they will go to arbitration. The exception is like arbitration. Arbitration is a kind of partial restraint because it is restraining the parties from directly approaching the court. What they are stating is that first take the recourse of arbitration. But what is very important to understand here as well, कि if they're approaching arbitration, this does not does not extinguish their right to approach court. Means that if the arbitration is not successful, they can go to court. So this arbitration clause which is like making it partially restraining, this would not constitute as invalid thing. This arbitration है जो अगर arbitration ऐड कर रहे हैं और there is some partial restraint कि कुछ restraint उन्होंने बोल दिया है, then it is a valid thing. Another kind of partial restraint का example which a lot of in books is there and you should write if it's asked in your exam also. Partial restraint में it can be like A and B. Okay, if they have any dispute in the civil procedure code, when you will be dealing with CPC, there you will understand about the jurisdiction. Right now the jurisdiction question is not that important. Just to give an example, jurisdiction in this sometimes what happens is like if A and B have any dispute, they have more than one court. More than one court has jurisdiction. Means one or more court has like one more than one court can try that particular case. In more than one court, a suit can be filed. Okay, suit is like a civil, whenever this plaint is filed and everything you'll study in civil procedure. So just to give you an understanding about this fact is more than one court, and in their whole agreement, A and B do an agreement that if there is any sort of dispute, will approach this particular court who has jurisdiction. But they are limiting it. They are limiting the scope. This is valid thing. This is valid, and it is known as partial restraint. This is valid thing. Another important thing you should know about is extinguishment of rights. Agreement that extinguish rights or discharge liability after a specified period so as to restrain enforcement are also void. Means if there is extinguishment of rights, extinguishment of the rights is here also. I'll take the example of the Limitation Act which I discussed in the last class, Limitation Act, in which there is like A and B has an agreement, and in one of the clause it state that this right like if party A has certain right of A can be exercised only within 1 year. It is what it is doing. It is saying that within 1 year, if it is done, after 1 year, no right. what this whole clause is doing, it is saying that after only within 1 year you can do. After 1 year, you do not have any kind of claim, and you can't approach the court. Such kind of clause is void, void in nature, because as I told you, against public policy, because it's going against the whole purpose why we have the contracts in our society. It's clear to all of you. I've discussed in detail about all the things. You give a reading to it, give a reading to your book as well. Now let's do certain case laws. Amson's International Ltd Metal Distributors, a UK case, very similar to the facts I explained. A clause that unilaterally deprives a party to enforce contract rights either through arbitration is void under section 28. As I told you, but there are certain exceptions. You can say that this proceeding can be done through the arbitration, but it does not mean that you're extinguishing, you're getting away with the right of the party to approach the court. You should read this case, important case. Also, if you see the second case about Swaraj Bandhu versus Gyananda Sundari, this case and Union of India versus Muhammad Azim, important principle in this case was that there was certain clause was added between the agreements, between the parties during their agreement, which was limiting, shorting the time to make a claim. Making a time to claim are also void. You cannot unilaterally shorten the period of time shorter than the statutory period. What is the meaning of statutory period here? Because we have a limitation act which states that only during this much time limit only you can enforce that claim. But if under limitation act it states 3 years, but in your contract you're giving it only 1 year, this will be void, because against the statute, against the statutory period. So it's also going against the spirit of the whole contract act. And then another is a clause that only limits the duration of a contract, not the time to sue is valid and does not offend. You can limit the duration of the contract, but not the time to sue. Means A and B say that this contract is only for 1 year. Means within 1 year only this contract is there between the parties. After 1 year, this will be revoked. This will be rescinded. Such kind of things can be there. Here about this you will dealing with the performance part. In the later subsequent videos, you will be able to better understand this principle. But for the time being, you can understand that this clause is saying, one clause is saying this contract is only for 1 year, but it's not saying that you cannot sue. You can only sue. Sue means you can file only case within 1 year. That it is not restraining. So any clause of such a nature will be a void clause, and it ultimately will make the whole contract also void. As I told you, making arbitrator award a condition precedent to suing the insurer does not violate. This is in the Arbitration Act you will understand about what are the arbitral award. So to give a general understanding from the Contract Act principles is that if any clause is saying that, basically this clause is not restraining the parties from approaching the court, but they are saying that the parties can approach the court only after they have taken the award from the arbitrator as per their agreement in which they have entered into arbitration agreement as well. How it happens and everything you will understand in your Arbitration Act if you study that act. Another is about jurisdiction clauses. As I told you, jurisdiction clauses, if more than two courts have a jurisdiction, parties may agree to restrict the proceedings to one. As we have discussed in earlier in the last example I've given you, where there are more than one, so parties can make certain restraint, partial restraints are allowed. This finishes this part about restraint to legal proceedings. Let's move on to our section 29. Section 29 is about Section 29 is an agreement void for uncertainty. Section 29 is a very simple act, simple provision which anyone can understand. If you till now have understood whatever we have discussed, it's about agreement void for uncertainty. If there is any clause, what is meaning? If there is any clause which is uncertain, and this clause is important, which is very important for the whole agreement. Important, or like it is a substance. What is a substance? Lot of time there is a question about material clause or substance of the contract. What is meaning of these clauses? It's like it is because if you see any sort of, if I just make a document which is an agreement between the parties, this is an agreement. Okay, this is an agreement which I've made. All right, and there are clauses: clause 1, clause 2, clause 3, clause 4, clause 5. Not every clause will be important. Like, if you see, whenever, if you have seen any sort of drafted contract, you'll feel that a lot of provisions are very standard, which are there in very standard contracts. But there are some which are very important for the parties. Like, if you see, what are the important ones? Like time, quantity, time, quantity, price, all such kind of clauses are very important. Who are the parties, duration during which the contract is to be fulfilled, what are the amount of damages to be paid. These are the material clauses, or like the heart of the whole clause, heart of the whole, I would call it heart of the whole एग्रीमेंट, कि अगर ये दोनों पार्टीज के बीच में सही नहीं बैठता है, दोनों का मीटिंग ऑफ द माइंड नहीं हुआ है, कोई कुछ बोल रहा है, कोई कुछ बोल रहा है, दे नॉट अंडरस्टैंडिंग, देयर इज नो कंसेंसस. What we call as consensus, as I discussed with you, consensus means mutual understanding. Then that whole thing is bad. Okay, here what happen is that if that material thing is uncertain, meaning of which is not certain or capable of being made certain, are void. Ensure that contracts are clear and enforceable. Parties must know their rights and obligation. Why this kind of provision is added? Ki parties must know what are their rights and obligation. There should not be any ambiguity. You should write about the word of ambiguity. Ambiguity, uncertainty, this should be avoided. If this is there, then the whole agreement is void. Scope and application: if the terms of an agreement are so vague that the meaning cannot be determined, कि meaning समझ ही नहीं आ रहा है, important terms में ही meaning समझ नहीं आ रहा है, then the whole agreement is void. Capable of being made certain: if meaning can be clarified by interpretation, references, or external standards, or by specified mechanism, the contract is valid. One thing you need to understand is this whole is based upon the interpretation of the court. Why such kind of question? Like, we are discussing all of this. Why this is whole is relevant? This whole is relevant if there is any agreement and this is disputed. It is a duty of the court. We are not applying all of these principles. The court will apply all of these principles. Then why we are studying it? We are studying it because our job is to draft the contract, to understand that if you are entering into some with someone about something, is it, will it be enforceable in the court, enforceable in the law? That's why that's where the work of lawyers come into picture, because parties are layman. Parties layman means they do not know the law, but if they are entering into something which ultimately, if it is disputed, would the court would the court will uh, would the court accept it? What would be the opinion of the court? That is the enforceability part. Okay, but if under interpretation, the court, how the court is interpreting it, that will also be important part. Okay, then oral agreement, not automatically void for uncertainty. If terms can be precisely ascertained, they are valid. The thing is that any sort of agreement, if you see commercial agreements, if you see the commercial agreements, commercial things, it is like not a joke. This commercial agreements run into millions. Okay, so court will apply the test court will apply this test for interpretation, and if they see that if there is, automatically will not, they will turn it void. They will apply certain standards, certain tests to see if this commercial because it's running into millions, they cannot automatically term it void. If they can make certain sense of it, then it will be held to be a valid contract between the parties. It's easy. Now there's certain case laws, as I always tell you to, that case laws are better understandable in terms of facts. Also, read from your books. I've used all the standard and the very important cases which are there in almost all books. I will be discussing with you here the principles. What are the principles? Principle is agreement must be clear on its face. If the meaning is reasonably clear, the contract is valid. Agreement must be clear on its face. Clear on its face is that This principle will held clear, reasonably clear, and the contract is valid. Another is Bahadur Shah Phuleshwar Singh. This case, what the principle was used by the court, a contract is not void if its terms can be made certain. Mere vagueness that can be resolved by interpretation does not make a contract void. Mere vagueness would not make it that can be resolved by interpretation. Vagueness can be there. You can't every time have a, but court will apply the tests. Easy. Let's move on to the major part of this lecture, which is section 30, which is our main goal to here understand about. Section 30 is about the wagering agreements. If you are doing contracts, it's very important, and a lot of people are confused in this. So patiently listen to it as to what are the wagering agreements. Wagering agreements means what, in the basic sense, if I have to tell about the wager is like something. Wager agreements are seen in negative light. Why wager? Wager is like a chance. Like if A and B are there, it's kind of a bet. Wager is in the layman sense is like a betting. Agar if there is certain agreement about betting, do you think what the how the law will see it? Would the law find such kind of agreements good for the society or for the legal system? No, no. Like if A and may make a bet, they make a bet that it will rain. A is like I okay. A is like if it will rain, I'll give you 5,000. B is like oh it will not rain. Okay, if it will not rain, you give me 5,000. This is the kind of whole agreement. Do you think if you see, even if you have not studied about this whole concept, do you think that this kind of contract should be enforceable? If you will start making such kind of whole contracts enforceable every time every day, you will find people literally going to court for enforceability of such kind of. There is no real interest of A and B in getting that rain. Is there any interest of parties? Is there any interest of parties in this? No. Can they control this event? No. There is no control, there is no interest. What is there? There is only a pecuniary interest. Pecuniary interest means money interest. Pecuniary is like money or financial interest. They are just doing it this kind of betting. It's a chance factor. One important factor is chance factor. There is a 50-50 win. You don't know what will happen. Act of rain is not something, it's act, not act, which is under the control of A and B. So the chance factor, nothing they know. There is no there is no, one important thing is there is no skill involved. One important factor is skill involvement. If there is any sort of this kind of agreement also, but there is certain amount of skilling is involved. I'll give you examples and exceptions which is carved by the law. Even such kind of agreements are always in news. If you see Rummy game, Rummy was also a lot in news. Rummy news. If you see Rummy was a card game. It is a card game. I mean, there is still it still go. You must have seen a lot of ads of Rummy when it was there. A lot of ads were there. What is Rummy? It's a card game, but it is also so it was challenged on the basis that it is a wager. But what the court found that there is a skill involved in playing this game as well. So it can't be termed as a wager. To term something as wager, firstly let's um, not jumping into that. I think we should first discuss about, where is my page? Let's first discuss about a definition. General rule kya hai? Then we will discuss about what is the important ingredients and then exceptions. Agreements by way of wager are void, and no suit shall be brought for recovering anything alleged to be won by on a wager. Anything won on a wager, agreement by way of wager are void. Simply the provision says कि any agreement जो wager के base पे है, wager is void. No suit shall be brought for recovering anything alleged to be won. Agar why what is meaning of void here? कि if anything is won on wager, two parties are agreeing on something, you cannot go to court to enforce that thing. Or entrusted to any person or to abide by the anything alleged to be won on any wager, or entrusted to any person to abide by the result of any game or other uncertain event of on which any wager is made. Wager agreements, if you see wager agreements, are agreement between two parties holding opposite views on an uncertain event where each stands to win or lose depending on the outcome. The definition itself says that two parties. Firstly, it says that there are two parties. Two parties are there. Important thing are like opposite views. As I told you, opposite views is something contrasting. Two parties are there. Here A and B are there. Different views about rain they have, and then they equally chance to win and lose. They had equal chance because rain is an uncertain event. There is importance of uncertain event here. Uncertain event. व्हाट द लॉ सेज कि अगर इन दोनों में से क्या होता है कि इफ ए कम्स एंड टेल्स कि रेन हो नहीं, ए होगी, बी सेज नहीं होगी ए, एंड देन अल्टीमेटली क्या होता है, रेन हो जाती है, एंड बाद में बी क्या बोलता है, बी इज लाइक आई विल नॉट पे यू द 5,000 रुपीज, वो मुकर जाता है, दे लाइक मुकर जाना इन द सेंस दे रिफ्यूज टू पे, बी इज लाइक आई वुड नॉट पे यू 5,000 रुपीज। बट देन क्या होता है कि ए चला जाता है कोर्ट के पास, कोर्ट को बोलता है कि ये हुआ था, court will not court will be like we do not recognize such kind of agreements because such kind of agreement is a wager क्योंकि ये सारे essential components fulfill हो रहे हैं, there was a mutual chance of win and gain, क्योंकि why court will not enforce कि if such kind of agreements as I told you, then every time people will be making such sort of wager, as a wager is against the public policy, because ultimately it is going against even the how the arrangements should be made. People will start because there is no skill involved, and it's just a chance game. People are like here just making certain sort of bet on things which do not even matter, like about rain or something easy. But if you see, wager in the concept is very vast concept in the sense that a lot of things which are based on chance factor has also been held to be valid agreements that you will that I'll discuss. Firstly, let's discuss the ingredients: mutual chance of gain and loss. As we discussed, both parties must have chance to win or loss depending on the event's outcome. If one party can only win and not lose, it is not wager. Firstly, understand this was dealt in this case law properly by the court. One thing which is important is that both the parties, it should not be ki if A and B are doing any sort of, should not be that it win and everyone, A can also win, B can also win. It should not be that A can only win and cannot lose. That will not be a wager. That will not be a wager. Wager के some essentials are there जो fulfill होने चाहिए. Two parties aside, there must be two sides capable of winning or losing. And then multiple parties are only wager if divided into two sides. Multiple parties में क्या होता है, there are multiple parties. It should be like groupism. 2-3 people are here, 3-4 people are here, but there is some opposition. There is two sides. That is important. Again, there is a case of Narayana Iyengar Valachami Ambalam. This case, you should read this case. It's about chit funds. Chit funds, okay, if I have to give an example, if I have to make you understand, chit funds is also, as I told you, there are certain exceptions which are there. What happens in chit funds are not wager, as no member stands to choose and to lose. In this case, chit fund was challenged because of XY reason. You need to read the facts to understand why it was challenged. But I can explain you chit funds. In this case, chit funds was held to be not a wager. Okay, so let's understand why in this case this was held wager. Chit funds क्या होते हैं? Chit funds is like, in this chit funds what happen is there are members. Chit fund is a kind of a banking arrangement in the sense, but to explain in the simplest way, I will explain like there are 20 members. 20 members are there and they say that I will contribute 1,000 rupees, 1,000 each every month for that fund. 20 members into 1,000. What it means is 20,000 rupees. 20,000 rupees will be in this fund. Then what these members do, they make a chit. You know, chit means 20 members will write their name and they will choose one person out of them, and this one person will get this 20,000 amount. This kind of thing they do. But in this chit funds, one interesting thing is like this is for the first month this happened. First month ke liye this happened. In the second month, what will happen is that out of the 19 members now left, everyone will again make the fund of 20,000 rupees, and now second member will get the 20,000. This way, if the 20 members, this whole thing will go till 20 months. 20 months, every month one person will get 20,000 rupees as a pura fund. How it helps is कि everyone gets a fund, पूरा 20,000 मिल गया. So it helps to in their financial security. This is certain kind of arrangement. I have explained in a very simplest way. There is a lot, this is not that simple as a concept. There is a chit fund act as well. We have chit fund act as well, which regulated fund act, how it is to be used, where it is to be used. It's a banking term, banking, or like a financial transaction thing. So if you're dealing with chit fund act or any case law which explains this, you can explain to me in the comment section as to how it really works in the real sense, to make this class even more interesting. Okay, so if you see, this whole arrangement was challenged as wager. Why wager? Because they were saying कि it was a chance factor, कि first who will get hold the fund, कि एक बंदे को मिल रहा है, then they are doing cheating because it's based upon probability in this, anyone after 20 can get the fund of 20,000 rupees. तो बहुत ये हो गया है कि it's like they're picking and choosing one person. It was challenged as wager, but in this case it was held that chit funds are not wager, as no members stand to lose. क्योंकि इसमें there is no one who is losing, everyone is, because it's going till 20 months, and one every month they're changing the members, so everyone is getting the money, the full corpus of 20,000 rupees. So it is not against the, so it is, no one is standing to lose, no one is losing in this case, no one lose. So it is not a wager. For wager, what the court will, if there is any agreement is termed as wager, then court will apply the test, and it will see whether all the essential components of wager are getting fulfilled or not. Uncertain events. Let's understand this part now. Uncertain events, which is like the outcome must be uncertain to both the parties at the time of the agreement, can relate to future or unknown past. One important thing here is about uncertainty of the event. Uncertainty of the event is, जो event है, the event under question should be uncertain. The event should not be of such a nature which can be controlled by one party. Can relate to future, it should be related to future or some unknown past event. That event का result नहीं आया है, वो past में event हो गया है. It can be based upon that. इस दिस केस में चिमालाल पुरुषोत्तम वर्सेस शाह वर्सेस नियमत्राल, दिस इज मेजरली a case which where the series of transaction in the Ahmedabad share bazaar, means stock market का, there was a transaction which was challenged and it was challenged as a wager. उन्होंने बोला कि it is a wager because in this case what happened is कि the defendant in this case, Nyamtral, this is a defendant in this case. That person said that this trade were essentially wagers, कि speculation contracts बनाए गए हैं, and there was no intention of actual delivery of shares. If you know about stock market, you must know that they buy the shares. This is how the actual delivery happens. You do not need to go into that detail about how this stock transaction works. You will, if you want to learn, you will deal with it in your security laws whenever you take that course. For the simple contract thing, what the court will, in this case Bombay High Court was in the question, they analyzed the real intention behind the transaction. They looked at the context of the trade, the procedure and the rules of the exchange, statute and action of participant, evidence of actual delivery or genuine business practices. So in this case, basically stock market was under question. To give you a gist of stock market transaction key stock market transaction को a lot of people call wager, because here also there is mutual chance of win and loss, and also because stock market transaction को why it is called wager, because if you see nowadays stock market का there is proper courses to understand how stock markets works, because but from the earlier time itself, the stock markets ka transaction is usually considered to be a betting game, a chance game. Stock market in this case the court, the Bombay High Court in this case, had uh, differentiate between stock market transaction and speculative transactions. Speculative transactions जो होती हैं, speculative transaction is there is no real intention of real intention to buy something, real intention of entering into the transaction. It is merely based upon pecuniary interest. लोगों को सिर्फ मनी का होता है, there is no actual deliveries happening. But in the stock market transaction, if you see, there is a proper stamped formal channel in which brokers are involved. Okay, brokers are involved. There is a proper deal mechanism. You get proper receipt of the amount of shares you bought and all. So if the court need to interpret between what is stock market transaction between the speculative transaction, court always check whether there was a formal channel was available. If all these are getting fulfilled, then that will not be termed as a wager, because in the exceptions we will discuss that stock market transactions are not held to be wager. Not it is not a wager. But if there is a speculative transaction, this is a wager. And such speculative transactions are in a lot of cases. Here in the contract, you're not dealing with this kind of thing, but under the wager, because a lot of security market transaction has been held to be wagers. That's why I had to take this example. Okay, so let's move on to because such things are held to be unlawful. Let's no interest other than a stake. As I told you, what is stake here? Some financial interest, certain kind of money involvement that I'll get this payment. Neither party should have any interest in the event except the stake. If a party has a personal or other interest, it is not a wager. It is not a wager. This is the work of court to interpret all of this. Promise to pay. There must be promise to pay money or money's worth on the happening or not happening of the event. Happening or it is based upon happening or non-happening. As I took the example of rain, that happening or non-happening, it is based upon promise to pay and no control over the event. And then it is important, neither party should have the control over the event. Important factor here is like neither party should have the control of this principle was dealt in this case. Like if A and B, there is a there is a job. A is an employee of B. Okay, they make an agreement based upon the whether A will resign from the job or not. Resignation from the job is completely in the hands of A. So whether this kind of agreement जो wager के लिए challenge हुआ है, in which a uncertain event is resignation from the job, it is in the hands of A. So it will not, because the control is in itself in the hands of A. So it's not a wager. Let's discuss about certain exceptions. Wagering agreements are void, not illegal. One thing important is it's such kind of agreements, if they're made, if A and me are betting on the rain, A cannot enforce this in the court. As I told you, that person cannot go into the court. But can it be held to be illegal? Can they be penalized for it? What is illegal in the sense? Illegal means if something is illegal, there is a law which says you cannot do, and if you do it, there will be punishment. Can A and B be punished for the betting part? Then a lot of people will be in prison, because every time I see people betting on something, betting on some result, betting on some cricket match and everything. So they are unenforceable, but not necessarily unlawful unless declared so by the law. They are unenforceable, but not they are unlawful, not necessarily unlawful. You cannot say that it is against the law, you have done certain illegal act, agar there is no statute which says so. Agreements are void under section 30 but not unlawful under section 23 unless declared so. Easy. Let's move on to about the insurance contract. If you see insurance contract, also, when you do insurance acts, what you see that in the insurance, what happens, you will get this much amount of money if this kind of events happen. In the insurance contract, you understand now, if some accident happens and all, these are not wagers, because as a party have an insurable interest. Why these are not wager? Even if it's based upon the uncertain event, but if you see, is it based upon winning and losing? If there is an insurance company, it's doing an insurance, why this is not a wager? Not a wager, because this insurance contract is in the interest of is in the Interest of insurers. Insured, sorry. Apologies. Insured is the person who is getting that insurance. That if the person gets an accident, or there is some accident or some infrastructure insurance, like shipping insurance and all, कि ship को कुछ हो गया, travel insurance, transit is like whenever the goods are transported, those kind of insurance. So it is in the interest of the insured, so it's not a wager. I think it's a easy self-explanatory. Let's move insurance now. In competition involving skill, Rami, I've already explained you. This was the case Andhra Pradesh, Satyanarayana. You can read on this case and tell me in the comment section any some new insight which you found interesting. I'll reply back to you. On the cases of skill based competition or not skill based competition, like there is some puzzle game or there is any sport game, will not wagers. These kind of games will not be held to be. It's also now a matter of that it's a subjective thing. It's based upon the facts. What are court will analyze that how that game is played, how that puzzle is played, how the crossword is played. Because if there is certain amount of skilling is involved, then it will not be able to fulfill the essentials of wager. Essentials of wager is like winning or losing, 50% chance, uncertain event. That kind of things are not there. It's based upon certain skills. And another thing about the racing competition, if you see horse racing competition, in some cases, court, like in the case of K.R. Lakshmanan, in this case of state of Tamil Nadu, if you see, horse trading is a game of skill. So, isme there was a case in which court had held horse trading also to be based upon skill, because it's based upon judging how the horse is, based upon like measuring evaluation ki what how the horse will perform and everything. So in this case, contribution of prices of 500 or more in authorized horse racing are not wager. In this case, wager horse racing as a concept was held to be there is a betting on the horses who will win as in a horse race. It was held to be valid. Another is share market transaction, as I told you earlier as well. Agar in a share market transaction, it's a proper channel is there, delivery of shares are happening, then that will not be a wager. Speculative transaction without the intention to deliver may be considered wagers. You do not need to go into that detail about share market transaction, but a little detail about it. If you write in your subjective answers, it will really give you a brownie point in your answer, because it really makes your answer more comprehensive. Because if you know about what is speculation, I have told you, because speculation, there's certain chances. It's also a matter of fact. The court will analyze whether in the speculative transaction, how this whole transaction is happening. If in the speculation may what the party is doing, parties may this are fulfilling the wager ke essentials, कि there was no mutual interest, any interest, uncertain event पे there was a speculation. But in the stock market transaction, it does not happen, because stock market transaction में there's a proper stock exchange who do, their brokers are involved and everything. So this is how we let's wrap up this session. Thanks a lot. This was a long video. I'm sorry this got a bit long, but thanks for listening to me. Please like the video, subscribe channel, and please do comment on me as to any suggestion if you have about how can I improve the content. And if you have doubt about any certain any concept, or if you want to share certain new insight about whatever we had discussed, I've tried to make the videos as interesting as I could. Thank you. Thanks a lot for listening. Happy learning.